What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I have another Fallout 76 video for you guys here today. Today we're going to be talking about bows and everything there is to know about them. What arrows should you be using? What legendary effects should you be using? Which of the 3 different bow types should you be using? I'm going to cover all that in this video, so let's get started. To begin, let's talk about the legendary effects I'm using on all the bows tested in the video. I'm using Bloodied, 50% VATS hit chance, 15% faster reload, and pinpointers on all the different bow types. So everything is uniform, so if you wanted to replicate this test you could, and all damage values will be the same if you use something different than this, because well, everything is the same in the video. What legendary effect should you be running in the 2nd star slot? There's a couple different ones that are good and typically really good on other weapons, however on bows it's a little more complicated. There's Vital and there's VATS hit chance, which are in my opinion the best options. I believe the 2nd star effect, last shot, is also a good one to use. However, I don't really test that in this video because it's not really reliable. And I went ahead and tested Rapid as well as Swift on the same weapon just to see what would happen, and what I found was that when you have it on your bow, it actually doesn't make any difference whatsoever in your time to kill or your DPS because it doesn't seem to be doing anything. And you can see on the background footage as I showed how long it took to shoot 5 shots on a bow that had each of the different legendary effects on it. And what I found was that it really did not do anything. So don't use Rapid or Swift on your bow because it doesn't do anything. Unless you're using something like a crossbow, I would recommend using Swift. So in the footage here, I am testing the Flame Arrow. The Flame Arrow is by far the best arrowhead in my opinion, as it allows you to one-shot any super mutant in West Tech level 100 just by shooting them one time. The flame damage is enough to just fully kill them, and they will burn out slowly, so you can just shoot them and move on. And this is of course using pinpointers. If I was using something like pyros, it would not kill them in one shot. The only weapon that could not kill in one shot even after the burn effect happened was the crossbow. Moving on to the poison arrowhead, the poison effect does not do a lot of damage to super mutants anyway. This could be different for different enemy types, but usually any enemy that's not super mutant is going to get one shot regardless of what you're using or their damage resistance values because they just have much less health. But you can see I'm testing the crossbow, the regular bow, and the compound bow, and they all do pretty similar damage, and you can see that the poison just is not enough even with pinpointers and the sneaking bonuses to take out that super mutant. So I would stay away from using the poison arrow just because it's not that great, especially when compared to the flaming arrow. Moving on to explosive, I'm sure a lot of people love this, but in my opinion, after testing it, I don't think it's that great. Again, it falls short of the one-shot capabilities of the flame arrow. However, you do have that tagging capability, so if you are doing something like an event, you could theoretically tag a bunch of enemies with Grenadier and Demo Expert, but it's just the damage is not there. And I am using both those perks here, and I did as well for the flame arrow, just so you can see how much damage it does using everything from its full potential. Moving on to the cryo arrows, these arrows were definitely a letdown as they kind of felt like just using a regular arrow. They didn't really do anything special. The slow effect was minimal, if anything at all, and while it does look cool, in my opinion, the enemy gets lit up in some frost, but it's just not worth using it over any other arrowhead unless we have enemies that are specifically weak to cryo damage and take substantially more damage from cryo damage, but we just don't have that in the game right now, so I would also stay away from these arrows. Moving on to plasma arrows, these arrows do quite a bit of damage. I am using the science perk. I don't believe it benefits them, but just to cover all my bases here. This is an arrowhead that I would consider maybe second best, as it does do a substantial amount of damage and it does tie into that energy and ballistic damage resistance values. But as far as people looking for one-shot capabilities, again, you're just going to want to refer to the flame arrow for that. Now lastly, testing the ultracite arrows. These ones again were just not performing as well as the flame arrow. They do a significant amount of damage and they are better than something like the standard arrow or cryo arrow, but it's just not worth building into, especially when you consider to actually use materials to craft ultracite arrows. It's just not worth it. So I would also stay away from this and just use something like either the flame arrow or the plasma arrow. Now that we have tested all the different arrowheads, let's get a damage comparison here so you guys can see what the damage looks like. This is of course using nothing like a critical hit, this is all just base damage. So from the chart you can see that the flame arrow, while it does have slightly less damage than something like the plasma or the ultracite arrow, it actually just does way more damage because of the burn time is insane on these flame arrows. I don't know what they did in the past previous updates, but they have made the flame damage cracked out of its mind. So I would highly recommend using that over any other arrowhead, especially right now. I would say from using things like the Pyromaniac mod and just stick to using something like pinpointers or polished, as you do end up getting more damage overall by doing so. If you're doing something like an event, I would also use the flame arrows to tag up different enemies, as you cover a bigger radius and you put out more damage than you would using something like the explosive arrow. So overall, the flame arrow is the winner in my opinion. It's just the best overall for anything in the game. As far as which bow you should use, that really depends on your playstyle. If you like a slower playstyle and you don't really, push too much inside buildings or something, you could use something like the compound bow. It does do more damage and can guarantee the one shot more often than the recurve bow, but the regular bow / recurve bow shoots much faster. So if you do need to shoot a follow-up shot, you can very easily do so. The crossbow I would just stay away from, just because even with the Swift mod on it, the reload just takes way too long. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.